Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Emezi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode. Integrity. That's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to make a case for integrity, and I'm going to make it without a single moral argument. The reason why is because a lot of people think that morality and moral arguments and moral approaches are the things that are going to help men end an out-of-control behavior. And if we are to use a marketing term, they're really great for top-of-funnel material. What I mean by that is a very simple message to the everyman, to the layman on the streets that touches him and makes him think and consider the negativity that he's putting out into the world and in himself when he views pornography. Yes, you can appease to his religious upbringing, even if he's no longer a Christian. He's like, oh, you're not a good man. That's not a godly thing to do. He may identify as Christian or Muslim, but he doesn't go to church or he doesn't go to the mosque, but he grew up that way. So when you hit him with that sexual integrity thing, he's like, oh, maybe I'm cheating on my wife. Yes, I can see how this is leading to more child abuse. I can see how pornography leads to more sexual trafficking. And I can see how I'm a part of that system when I engage in that. That's top of funnel. It's great for bringing in men, but it is horrible for moving them through the various stages of their reboot. And that is the reason why 12-step programs are jam fucking packed with dudes who are not entering the maintenance stage. It's the reason why there's this bullshit of like, oh, day after day, one day at a time, once an addict, always an addict, because they cannot let go of the morality part. Because the minute they take away the morality, what's happened? Only the system is left. The system, if it works, it works. Your brain rewires and you get the fuck on with your life. They don't want you to get the fuck on with your life. You know why? Because if you get the fuck on with your life, they have to constantly fill their funnel of 12 steps. And there's some people who are in those organizations that have their own issue. Their entire life's meaning is the identity of an addict. So they need to be in 12 steps. They need to run a 12-step group. And how do you keep it running? Well, you keep it running by keeping people in the group, by creating a system that keeps men stuck. Rebooting from day one has been about you coming through the program and getting the fuck out. Rewire your brain and leave, my brother. Go away. If I bump into you on the street with your wife, I'm just a dude that you were in a men's self-improvement group with a long time ago. It's happened before. Not a big deal. If you already have an issue with the moral argument, if you're just like, JK, I don't know about that, man. This is a sin, bro. This is a moral failing, bro. Then this might offend you. I don't care. I'm going to take a bet that you're probably struggling financially. And the reason why is because the everyman, the layman, is the average man. He is the middle class man. He is the man who is struggling financially. He is the man who has not been able to step out of that averageness financially and find the freedom that is necessary for him and his family. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that you have chosen to be among the masses. Moral arguments do not move strategic, high-performing, hungry, and ambitious men. They don't give a shit about the moral arguments. Even the pastors, I work with probably the most pastors and ministers compared to anyone else in this industry. And let me tell you this. There's a pastor who's still trying to fill his church with 15 congregants. And then there are mega church pastors. That is 4,000 members of their congregation and above that I've worked with. Guess which one is moved by moral arguments? Yes, it's the pastor with the little church on the strip mall. The guy that's running The mega church, they are businessmen first. I'm not saying that they're not doing it for the Lord. I'm not saying that they're immoral. I'm not saying that they're not spiritually enlightened. Many of them are all of those things. But before that, they are strategic marketers and business people. They know what the heck they're doing. So if you're listening to this, you've probably heard the moral version of all of this. You know the argument. You've made it to yourself at least at 1 a.m. many times. You've argued with yourself. You prayed to God. You've told yourself you're going to do better. You've been disgusted with yourself on a moral level, but it hasn't been enough to close the gap. So here is the case that I'm making instead. Integrity is not moral superiority. I believe that integrity is energy conservation. Hear me out. When you are internally aligned, when your private behavior matches your stated values, there is no hidden negotiation that is running in the background. There's no mental compartmentalization that's maintaining two versions of yourself simultaneously. There is no private contradiction that your mind has to work around while you are trying to think clearly. That background process that you have, the one that you've normalized because it's been running for so long, it consumes bandwidth, bro. Real, measurable cognitive bandwidth that you are currently not using for the work, the relationships, and the decisions in your life that actually matter. And most high level guys, most high achievers, they tolerate this cost. Why? Because it is invisible. It is invisible on every metric that you have been trained to track. You're a high achiever. You've been trained to track your savings, your revenue, your team performance, whatever it is you track in your business. But it doesn't show up in your revenue, doesn't show up in team performance, doesn't show up in your KPIs, doesn't show up in SOPs. Nobody in the room can see it. You cannot see the constraint, but you can feel it. You can feel it in the cognitive load before hard decisions. You can feel it in the emotional flatness that passes as equanimity, but it actually isn't. You can feel it in the intimacy that just stays at the surface level because something underneath it is preventing its full descent. So there is something that is stopping you from getting deeply intimate with your partner, with anybody else. And intimacy, by the way, is just emotional closeness. This is the full cost of what is happening to you. You are experiencing a heavy cognitive load. A heavy cognitive load. I've talked about this again and again. Your brain cannot handle all the things that you need to handle as a high achiever when you are living with this behavior. You no longer have steadiness with your emotions. They are shaky and all over the place. You're walking around on your own, having conversations and going off on people that are not sitting in front of you. You know what I'm talking about. There is no depth to your intimacy anymore. There is no clarity to your decisions anymore. And of course, there's no eternal peace, or rather internal peace, excuse me. I was going biblical on you with the eternal peace. Everything is running below optimal. Everything is invisible. Everything is accumulating until it stops being invisible. So here is the distinction, my brother, that separates men who close this gap from those who actually don't. If relief, that is, the relief you get from viewing pornography or masturbating, if it is the thing that regulates you as a high performer, then integrity is going to feel very restrictive. Integrity is going to feel like you are losing something. The cost of aligning yourself to your higher self, that becoming one with your higher self is going to feel higher than the cost of being split into that lower version of yourself that seeks relief. Because splitting yourself, when you split yourself, the cost is spread. You spread the cost of splitting yourself over days, months, and even years. And that's why it doesn't show up. It's like somebody's stealing from you, but you don't see it on your books because they're stealing a little bit here and there. But the cost of alignment, becoming a man that's in tune with his higher self, you feel it and you see it immediately. If being, let's use this phrase, a sovereign man, right? What's a sovereign man? A sovereign man is a man who values autonomy. It's a man who values free will. It's a man who values critical thinking. It's a man who values happiness. It's a man who values autonomy. I think I mentioned that. If that is the thing that regulates you, then integrity feels like the obvious operating system that you should have in your life. Many of you have a different operator. Some of you are using Mac, some of you are using Windows, some of you on your phone, you're using iOS or Android, whatever. What's your operating system? Integrity should be your operating system because it's the most efficient operating system. Restriction is a framework within an operating system. And frameworks are how serious men build serious things. I'm really trying hard to make this distinction. And I also want to make it clear that I'm not judging your character. I'm using this language because I want you to know that it is something that you have to aspire to, you have to grow into. The man who requires relief all the time, that lower version of yourself, he hasn't yet experienced what it's like to operate from a fully integrated state. He hasn't experienced what it's like to operate from his higher self. And the moment he does, you will immediately understand the trade. You're just like, oh, I know why I have to do it. I know why it is better to operate from this place than it is to slowly steal from myself and hide it across my books. So first thing you need to do is you need to remove the artificial stimuli from your life in a structured way. This is habit change. Then you have to recalibrate your life. Your life has to be, you have to be living this lifestyle. That is the lifestyle part of this. And then you have to stabilize your life long enough for it to become a part of your self-image, long enough for your identity to change. That means you have to have enough proof in your life, in your work, in your relationship, in your spiritual life, that this is worthwhile. Without the proof, without the experience of it yourself, you're not having anybody telling you what to do, telling you you're a good boy, pushing that morality down your throat. No, you are having the experience of knowing that this is the right way to live. And then once that identity change has happened, something that you in the past had spent enormous amounts of energy managing disappears. And that is the gap between who you are in public and who you are in private. You become the same person. People often say, JK, why do you act the way you act? Why do I feel weird when you're on the podcast? Some people feel that I'm very jarring, very aggressive, very just difficult to take in. And I tell them, dude, I am the same person. I am not pretending to be anybody else. There is no gap between who I am in private and who I am in public. If you were to see me act in private and you've not seen all parts of my behavior, you actually wouldn't be surprised. You'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what I think JK would do. I'm not surprised. When the gap closes, integrity stops feeling expensive, bro. For some of you, you're like, oh my God, my life, I can't afford to work with porn reboots. Why? Because integrity is too expensive for you, dude. That's the truth. Integrity is way too expensive for you. You're like, man, I can't afford that integrity, dude. I'd much rather go work with somebody for $297 a month. Why? Because it's what you're used to, motherfucker. You're used to spreading that shit out over a long period of time. When somebody tells you the price of integrity, of keeping you in integrity, of joining you to your higher self, you get scared. So when the gap closes, integrity stops feeling expensive. It instead feels efficient. And an efficient man, a man with nothing hidden that's dragging him down, man, his life compounds faster than anyone else around him. When I tell you that your reboot is going to lead to massive success in other areas of your life, it is so sad that men don't believe that because you've been so conditioned to think that it's a morality thing. And deep down, even you don't believe that if you fix the morality, you would become wealthy, or you'd become a better lover, or you'd become a healthier man. Because nobody told you that. You believe that if you become moral, you become a meek man, a good man, a man who doesn't want too much. And so you stick with that morality thing. You're just like, I'll just kind of hang out around this morality thing because I don't want to be a bad man. You're not going to be a bad man if you put aside morality during the movement from one stage to the other. That is the real case for doing this work. You don't do this because it's right. I'll say it again. You don't end your behavior with pornography because it's right. You end it because it is the most powerful way for you to operate as a man. And when you're ready for that, brother, just go down to the link in the description below this podcast, click on that shit, and be ready to pay the price for integrity. We will get you there. Been doing this for 13 years, going on 14, and I'm still going to be here doing it. Okay? So I'd love to see you on the other side. Bye. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.